Time is now 7:30 p.m. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Old Bridge Township Zoning Board of Adjustment for April 1, 2021. I'm James Sullivan, as Chairman of the Board. I would ask you now, please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. Pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Likely notice of this meeting of the Old Bridge Township Zoning Board of Adjustment has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act at least 48 hours prior to the commencement of this meeting by prominently posting in the municipal complex an announcement, the time, the date, the location, and the agenda of this meeting. Also by mailing such announcement to the Home News and Tribune, also by filing a copy of such announcement with the municipal clerk, and finally by posting same on the municipal website. Ms. Silverman, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Dewhurst?
Here.
Mr. Connor?
Here.
Ms. Kidloff?
Here.
Mr. Scogno?
Here.
Mr. Stoner?
Here.
Mr. Zakowski?
Here.
Ms. Andrews?
Here.
Chairman Sullivan?
Here.
Mr. Sachs?
Here.
Ms. Sawant?
Here.
And myself, Kim Silverman.
Thank you, Kim. Folks, this meeting is being conducted electronically via the internet by a webinar. It is unique and invitations are all involved. We no longer gather in the courtroom, but we're sitting in our own homes or in our own offices. This meeting is simultaneously being televised by OBT TV channel 15 as well as YouTube Live. I remind those watching on any device that there may be up to a 30-second delay in communication. This will be important to remember if you wish to personally join the public portion of the meeting later on this evening. Anyone calling in must lower their device or you'll be confused by the time delay. I would ask all our personal participants on the panel this evening to please silence their cell phones at this juncture to avoid any disturbances. Our meeting follows the same protocol as if we were in the courtroom. There are some general housekeeping matters that we're going to start with. We're going to follow this evening by one application. It's not going to be a need for a recess tonight, but if there is, I will announce it prior to the taking of a recess in the event that the stenographer may need a break. As in all applications, there's a public portion that follows our testimony. If you have any particular interest in the application this evening and you wish to ask questions via telephone, I suggest that you take notes during the presentation and to refresh your memory. That'd be a great time to get pen and paper. When you call in, you're going to be held in a queue position by the moderator of our meeting, Ms. Venus Sawant. And I'm going to ask her to take over now to fill in the blanks that I missed.
Good evening, Chairman. Good evening, board members. I believe Chairman Sullivan has covered all the announcements for tonight because it appears that we will not have any application hearing tonight. It will be just the annual report and some housekeeping matters. So I think we can proceed without any further announcements.
Thank you. I was unaware that, is there a continuance on 83-2020Z?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Okay.
It was, I sent it in today's, as soon as I found out, I sent the emails around.
I never doubted that it was my fault and not anyone else's. I probably didn't see that. Okay, so is the agenda just going to go 1 through 6 as written?
It's gonna, yes, as
As written, okay.
do you have any waivers on your thing?
Jim, yeah, the waivers are off.
The waivers
And
are
the
not.
application is off, yeah, so,
And sorry, the escrow deficiencies, resolutions, completeness waivers off.
completeness waivers are off, the deficiency resolution would be on.
Okay, and,
The resolution is on also,
okay, very good. And the annual report.
that's on also.
Okay, my mistake. I apologize to the board for not checking in on my email earlier. We have two escrow deficiency resolutions. I can take them together, Mr. Sachs?
Yes,
All right, the first one is 2-2020Z. That's at 2203 Route 9. It's the Route 9 LLC / Songley in the amount of $556. And 16-2019Z at 220 Gordon Road in the amount of $2,000. Would somebody like to move the resolutions, please?
I'll move it.
Is there a second?
Mr. Stoner?
I'm sorry, is there a second?
Second, Dewhurst.
Vice Chairman Dewhurst, seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Dewhurst?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Kilduff?
yes,
Mr. Scogno?
Yes.
Mr. Stoner?
Yes.
Mr. Psychowski?
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan?
Yes. Item 3 up, as I have it, is resolutions. It's 3-2021Z. Jayesh P. Patel. Mr. Sachs.
yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is application 20-21Z, Jayesh Patel. Application for D4 and C variances, property located block 13322, lot 8 at 3 Raven Drive. This application was heard on March 4th. The property is located in the R20 zone. The applicant was applying for C and D4 variance relief to construct a 170 square foot, 1-story addition on the first floor of his existing home. The proposed addition will be used as a sunroom and will be located in the northwest corner of the building. Said proposal represents an expansion of the maximum FAR and therefore requires a D4 floor area ratio variance. The permitted FAR in that zone is 0.33. The existing floor area ratio is 0.329, proposed is 0.35. There were also 2 C variances for minimum front yard setback and minimum side yard setback. There was one witness, that was Mr. Patel, and he indicated that the proposed sunroom would be 17 by 10 1/4. An existing deck of 19 by 10 would be removed. The sunroom would contain no plumbing and electric only. Actually, there's a typo here. I have to change that tomorrow. Mr. Patel, not Mr. Pemaraju, noted that there are homes in the neighborhood which have similar rear sunrooms and no increase in impervious coverage would incur. Mr. Patel agreed that any further expansion, including a new deck, would require variance relief, and if the homeowners association approval was required, he would apply for same. The conditions of approval, the only specific one is that the applicant will obtain approval from the Oakwood Homeowners Association if required as a conditional approval, as a condition of approval. And secondly, that the applicant acknowledges that variance relief will be required for a further expansion, including the construction of a new deck. And that's the resolution you have in front of you this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Board members, you've heard the resolution. Someone want to move?
I'll move
Motion
it.
to approve, Connor?
It was Stoner and Mr. Connor, seconds. Roll call, please, for adoption.
Mr. Dewhurst?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Kilduff?
yes,
Mr. Scogno?
Yes.
Mr. Stoner?
Yes.
Mr. Psychowski?
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan?
Yes. Before we do the discussion on the annual report, if anybody's watching at home, there is one continuance this evening. I now have it up on my phone where I should have saw it earlier today. The continuance is 83-2020Z. It's 2D Poor Farm Road. That is in the R20 zone. It's for 42 residential subdivision, mix of duplexes and townhouses. That was continued from March 4th. And right now, the applicant is asking to be continued to, Kim,
June 3rd with further notice.
June 3rd. Okay, so if you're watching at home and you're interested in that matter, it is not going to be heard this evening. It has been continued. It will be on the agenda for June 3rd. So there'll be no further conversation or testimony about that matter this evening. Thank you for watching if you were interested in that. Now we'll go back to the discussion item, and that's the 2020 annual report. Mr. Warren.
Good evening, members. Actually, the copy of the annual report was emailed to the board members last week. And like I said at the last meeting, there were not many issues or inferences from the annual report. Our zoning board attorney has reviewed it and has okayed it. Just to give a brief summary, last year there were 8 C variances that were approved by the zoning board. There were 12 D variances and site plan projects that were approved by the zoning board. 1 application was denied. 1 was withdrawn without prejudice and not heard. 2 applications have remained incomplete, and 2 applications, there was a hearing, but the second hearing was not did not happen and will be conducted in 2021. Of the C variances that were issued by the zoning board, there was there wasn't something that we could infer on. They were mostly applications for expansion of existing homes. There was 1 application for a shed, 1 for a porch. There were 2. There was 1 application for signage, but they typically, these annual reports are prepared by the zoning board at the end of the year so that it serves as a guidelines for the council to take any actions or decide on policy matters. To give you just a short example, almost 3 years back, the zoning board used to be flooded with D4 applications that were meant for, that were for floor area ratio. And one of the reasons for that was that an unfinished basement was not included at that time in the floor area calculation, whereas once the basement is finished, it was included in the floor area calculation. Now, it was burdensome for homeowners because most of these property owners buy properties with unfinished basements. When they want to finish their basement, when they need larger space for play or office, and they finish their basement, they would have to come in front of the zoning board. On seeing a pattern and a large number of such applications, I did make a recommendation to the council, and the ordinance was amended to remove or alter that requirement. And so now you notice that we don't see those type of applications where an unfinished basement is covered to a finished basement. Whether it's finished or unfinished, it is excluded from the floor area calculations. So just by looking at the type of applications the zoning board received last year, there is no inference that can be made. That doesn't mean that the zoning ordinance does not need update or amendment. It just means that there is no specific reason or pattern that we notice from the applications that came in front of the board. The D variance applications that came in front of the board were of various types. There was a subdivision that required D4, D5 a variance. There were single family homes that have required D5 or D4 or D6 variances, which is variances in the floor area ratio, density, or the height. There have been 2 commercial projects. In fact, not 2, I take that back. There were at least 4 commercial projects out of the 12 that were heard that were related to non-residential use, where D4, D6 variance was granted. But That's pretty much on my end, but the report summarizes and gives description of each of the projects that were approved. And if there are any recommendations, any suggestions by the board members, I'll happy to answer any questions or take them in.
Thank you, Mr. Wan. The report is obviously comprehensive, and your conclusions, I think, on the page 7 speaks loudly, and there really is nothing that we should be seeking at this time to change. All of that was done, as you said, under D4 a number of years ago. I had one question on it, and I was curious about on page 5, number 2. That application dates back to 17, when there was a first granting of a permission for an operation. And I didn't realize that it had been withdrawn, because I thought that the interpretation was still alive, because they're certainly operating in a whole different fashion than what they should be.
Actually, Chairman, I think you're talking about VNS, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, and that application, it has become very complicated over the past few weeks.
Mhm.
I had the chief stop by my office a couple of times, because there have been trucks parked on 34 and Morristown Road. In many instances, it is noticed that those trucks are making turns in Market Place, the strip mall that is opposite. So the zoning officer has been working with the owner, and there will be violations issued. They have been informed that they have to go in front of the zoning board. I believe what happened is, after they came in for an interpretation and the zoning board asked the applicant to amend the application and come back before the board, the owner probably started operating it without approvals. And that's why there is a huge amount of cars on that property. When the zoning officer visited the site last week, there were almost like 600 cars on the property. So there is no room now to maneuver on the site. And what's happening is, instead of maneuvering within the site, these trucks are maneuvering outside on the street right of way. So that issue is well aware, and the officials involved are working on it.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. Their operation has spilled out beyond their fence line, almost out onto Route 34. So I'm glad that we're going to take some action on it.
Yep.
That would be my only comment on that. Board members, any other comments on the annual report? You could raise your hand. I can see everybody. Everybody satisfied? No questions? Thank you very much, Ms. Sawant. We appreciate the effort. I have nothing else then on the application, on the agenda for this evening. Is there anything else you want to make us aware of, Ms. Sawant, while we're speaking with you?
Want to vote?
Yeah, well, I think, Mr. Chairman, I think what we have to do is, if the board is comfortable with the annual report, we've got to make a motion to refer that to the planning board for their review.
I
And then
thought
they
this
will
was
send
only
it to
the
the
draft.
council.
This is the final. This
I
is-
believe this is the final, right? Dana?
Okay.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
the fact.
All right, as such as it is the final, then we do absolutely need to do. I thought this was draft.
Yeah.
Okay, so we want to move the annual report for 2020 for approval.
I'll move it. Dewhurst.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Kilduff.
Stoner beat you to it. So we will now take a roll call, please.
Mr. Dewhurst?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Kilduff?
Yes.
Mr. Scogno?
Yes.
Mr. Stoner?
Yes.
Mr. Psychowski?
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan?
Yes. All right, now, is there anything else you want to enlighten us about, Ms. Sawant?
I have nothing further.
Mr. Sachs?
Any update?
Nothing. No changes from my last report on any litigation. So we're still waiting for our trial date on the Metro Storage litigation. And we're also waiting for the trial date on the Old Bridge Rifle and Pistol Club that was filed by Northwoods Manor. I noticed that my brief has to be in, I think, April 15th. So we'll be getting that in. And I think we have a trial date. I think the Metro Storage trial date coming up first. in May, and probably Old Bridge Rifle in June. So nothing else to report though, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Stocks. Ms. Silverman.
Nope, that's it.
Next meeting is when?
The next meeting is April 15th.
Okay, that's tax day.
No, it's been extended.
Has it really?
Yes.
Wait a minute, is that an April Fool's joke, Larry?
No, it is.
It's a good thing because I didn't send mine in yet. So-
No, you got until the
You
middle
get
of
a
May.
month
You got a 30
extension.
day. You got a month extension.
And nobody pulled any pranks tonight, so that's very good. As it was April Fool's Day. I thought I was being pranked. And I thought I was being pranked with the agenda, as a matter of fact. But thank you all. I wish everybody a healthy, happy holiday weekend. Please be safe. Until we meet again on April 15th, I'm sorry.
I guess.
I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks. Mr.
Night, everybody.